it, and that is the WNBA CBA negotiations. Where are they at now? What are the players asking for? What have I specifically heard? What do I predict is going to happen? Will the league end in a lockout? Will we have a season in 2020?
Breaking news, hot off the press, and it looked like the WNBA 2026 season could be in jeopardy.
The WNBA is on the edge of disaster. Experts are warning the 2026 season might not happen at all. Negotiations are falling apart, players are furious, and a lockout is looking more likely by the day. If this deal isn't signed soon, Caitlin Clark's growth and the league's momentum could collapse overnight. Imagine this. The WNBA finally reaches peak popularity. Attendance is rising. Sponsors are buying in. And Caitlin Clark has taken the league to heights it's never seen before. And yet, despite all that momentum, the 2026 season might never happen. The problem? The new collective bargaining agreement. Talks between players and owners have completely stalled. And analysts now believe a lockout is almost inevitable. The deadline to finalize a deal is October 31st. And as of today, both sides remain miles apart on everything from salaries to roster expansion to revenue sharing. The players want to capitalize on the league's growth, but the owners are refusing to commit to what they see as unsustainable costs. If nothing changes before the deadline, the 2026 season could be delayed or even canceled entirely. That's not just a setback. It's a nightmare scenario for fans, players, and the league itself. Players are demanding higher salaries, better benefits, and improved travel accommodations, while owners are warning that the league simply isn't ready to handle those expenses. One of the biggest sticking points is revenue sharing. Right now, WNBA players take home far less of the league's revenue compared to NBA athletes, and they want a bigger piece of the pie. On top of that, the cost of charter flights, a change players pushed hard for, has significantly increased operating expenses for every team. Sources close to the negotiations say players were offered a proposal that would have increased salaries well above the current structure, but many believe it still wasn't enough compared to what they bring in overseas. And that's another complication. The overseas leagues and Unrivaled are paying big money, which puts pressure on the WNBA to match it. Both sides are holding their ground, and with no middle ground in sight, the clock is ticking toward disaster. If neither side bends, the league's growth could come crashing down. Here's the reality. Without Caitlin Clark, we're probably not even having this conversation. Her arrival completely transformed the WNBA's visibility. Attendance skyrocketed. Merchandise sales went through the roof. TV ratings broke records. And yet, despite all this momentum, the entire league is now stuck in limbo. A canceled or delayed 2026 season would hit Clark's growth the hardest. She's become the face of women's basketball, drawing in new fans and securing massive sponsorships. But if the league stalls now, all that progress risks being wiped out. The WNBA finally has someone capable of taking the sport to a mainstream level. Yet off-court disputes are threatening to derail everything she's built. For fans, this is frustrating. They want to see Clark continue to dominate, break records, and lead Indiana into deeper playoff runs. But if the lockout hits, she won't even have the chance. And let's be honest, without Caitlin Clark on the floor, can the WNBA maintain its surge in popularity? That's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to answer. During the All-Star festivities, players made a bold statement by wearing shirts that read, "Pay us what you owe us." That moment highlighted just how tense things have gotten between the league and its players. From their perspective, they've fueled this growth. Ratings are up, ticket sales are up, merchandise is flying off the shelves. So why aren't they seeing a bigger financial return? Players argue they deserve a larger share of the revenue, especially as the league begins signing new TV deals and landing major sponsors. But the league's executives see things differently. They point out that despite the recent surge, the WNBA hasn't consistently turned a profit. They argue that raising salaries and increasing benefits before stabilizing finances could push teams into deeper losses. That disconnect has created an atmosphere of frustration and mistrust. This isn't just about fairness, it's about sustainability. If the WNBA can't balance rewarding its players with protecting its bottom line, the entire structure risks collapsing. And neither side seems willing to back down. The WNBA is preparing to launch multiple new teams starting in 2026, including franchises in major markets like Portland and Toronto. On paper, expansion sounds like an incredible sign of growth. But behind the scenes, it's creating serious problems. Players are asking why the league is investing so heavily in adding new franchises when current rosters are already stretched thin. Some teams are relying on hardship contracts just to fill spots. Yet the league wants to increase the number of total teams without first addressing salary structures or player conditions. Expansion also adds more financial strain. New teams mean higher operating costs, bigger scheduling demands, and more pressure on facilities and resources. All of this comes while players are simultaneously demanding higher pay and better benefits. In short, expansion is a double-edged sword. It represents progress, but it also adds complexity to negotiations. Without a solid CBA in place, launching new teams could end up hurting the league more than helping it. To understand why this is dragging on, you have to look at the owner's perspective. From their side, the numbers just don't add up. Yes, attendance has improved. Yes, sponsorships have increased. But the WNBA still isn't generating the kind of revenue needed to support the players' demands. Owners argue they've already made major investments to improve the league. Charter flights, marketing campaigns, expanded media coverage, all of these come at significant cost. They believe that pushing salaries too high, too fast, could destabilize teams financially, especially smaller market franchises already struggling to break even. This isn't about greed, at least not entirely. It's about risk management. The league promises too much now and revenue dips later. The entire financial structure could collapse. That fear is driving owners to proceed cautiously, even if it risks upsetting the players. But as deadlines approach, patience is running out on both sides. Adding another layer of tension to these negotiations is Unrivaled, the player-led league founded by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart. Unrivaled pays its stars competitive salaries and gives players more control, making it a legitimate alternative to the WNBA. This puts the league in a tricky position. If the WNBA pushes too hard against the players, Unrivaled becomes an attractive safety net. That gives players leverage, but it also creates conflict of interest since two WNBPA leaders are deeply involved with running a competing league. For owners, this is a nightmare scenario. How can you negotiate fairly when the people sitting across the table are also tied to a rival product? If a lockout happens, Unrivaled could benefit massively by attracting fans, sponsors, and players away from the WNBA. And that's something the league cannot afford right now. October 31st isn't just another date, it's do or die for the WNBA's future. If a deal isn't finalized by then, the league faces three possible outcomes. The first is a short extension, where both sides agree to temporarily keep the current agreement in place while negotiations continue. The second is a delayed start, which would disrupt expansion timelines, media deals, and sponsorship schedules. And the third, the worst-case scenario, is a full lockout, where players are barred from participating until an agreement is reached. If the third outcome happens, experts warn the league could lose an entire season. That would devastate its momentum, frustrate fans, and potentially drive sponsors away. At a time when the WNBA is finally starting to break through, losing 2026 would be catastrophic. A canceled or delayed season wouldn't just hurt the players and owners, it would shake the entire foundation of the WNBA and ripple across the entire sports industry. We're talking about millions of dollars already tied up in broadcast rights, sponsorship agreements, and marketing campaigns. Networks have locked in TV schedules, sponsors have poured resources into branding partnerships, and fans have built routines around following their favorite teams every week. All of that is suddenly hanging by a thread. If the season doesn't happen, that progress doesn't just slow down, it stops cold. And here's the harsh reality. Casual fans are the hardest to win back once they drift away. The WNBA has finally started converting casual viewers into consistent followers, largely thanks to superstars like Caitlin Clark, Aja Wilson, Sophie Cunningham, and others. But if you take an entire year off, a big portion of that audience moves on. They'll shift their attention to college basketball, the NBA, or other sports entirely. Rebuilding that momentum won't be easy. For players, the consequences are just as severe. Caitlin Clark is entering the most important stage of her career, and a lost season would stall her ability to grow her brand and expand her influence globally. Younger stars would lose vital development time, veteran players would face contract uncertainty, and international leagues like Unrivaled or overseas options would suddenly become more appealing. For the league, this isn't just about missing games. It's about risking everything built over the last 2 years. Ticket sales, media coverage, fan engagement, sponsorship trust, and long-term credibility are all on the line. Simply put, the stakes have never been higher. One wrong move here, and the WNBA could find itself starting from scratch all over again. The WNBA is standing at a crossroads. On one side, there's unprecedented growth, mainstream attention, and record-setting performances from its biggest stars. On the other, there's a labor dispute threatening to erase all that progress. Experts agree on one thing. If a lockout happens, it could derail the 2026 season and set the league back years. Fans, sponsors, and players all deserve clarity and fast. The league and the players need to find common ground before it's too late. Because if they don't, the WNBA's future could change forever.